one.
Question, so I just want anything to do with the witness. Okay? Alright, your arrest is necessary for a prompt and effective.
Is there anything in the pot that we should know about?
Yes, there is. Can I take you to it?
No, you can tell me.
In mid-June 2019, at a quiet two-story house on Pump Hill Chase Road, Great Baddow, Essex, UK, retired couple John and Lois McCullough suddenly lost contact. For 3 days, no one saw them appear. The curtains were closed, the mailbox was full, the phone was unanswered. Suspecting something was wrong, a relative called the police. When police arrived, the house showed no signs of forced entry, but the air inside smelled unusual. The only person present was Virginia McCullough, the youngest daughter, 35. She appeared cool, unperturbed, and did not ask why the police were there, something that immediately aroused the officers' suspicions.
This one. Stay where you are! Stay where you are,
I slipped spoilofos into his drink.
During the search, the police found John's body in the garage and Lois's body in the bedroom, hidden away. Both had been dead for days, with signs that they may have been poisoned or murdered. Virginia was unresponsive. She did not resist. She did not deny. She did not show any obvious emotion. Her every move, look, and attitude captured on police cameras signaled the beginning of one of Britain's most shocking family murders. But behind the peaceful exterior of that house was a crime that had been quietly perpetuated for years. So what was really going on inside the McCullough family? John McCullough, 70, and his wife Lois McCullough, 71, are an elderly couple living in the suburb of Great Baddow, Essex. He was a business lecturer, considered a dedicated person, but old age brought many illnesses that made him increasingly weak. Lois suffered from agoraphobia and obsessive-compulsive disorder, barely left the house, and was completely dependent on relatives. Neighbors described the couple as gentle, reserved, and affectionate. Of the 5 children, only Virginia McCullough, the youngest, lived with her parents and was responsible for taking care of them. She did not have a steady job or a family, but was trusted to manage the finances and household activities. On the surface, the family relationship seemed close. Virginia appeared to be a devoted daughter, always by her parents' side when they were sick. But no one expected that she was the one who caused the tragedy. Everything happened quietly, without noise, without warning, just like the closed life under that roof for many years. But that peace was only on the surface. Hidden behind it were unusual signs that no one in the family had time to recognize, or had not the courage to face. Before the murder, the McCullough family lived a quiet and seemingly peaceful life. Mr. and Mrs. McCullough were old and weak, and spent most of their time at home. Their 4 children had grown up and left, leaving only Virginia, the youngest, to care for her parents. However, behind the mask of responsibility was a different reality. Virginia had no stable job, was completely dependent on her parents' income, and was increasingly showing signs of abnormality. She often lied, borrowed money from her siblings under false pretenses, and even fabricated her parents' illnesses to ask for help. The ambiguous spending and lack of transparency in financial management also caused the relationship within the family to begin to crack. Virginia was withdrawn, socially withdrawn, and appeared to be in control of the household. There were no obvious outbursts, but tension simmered, as if something was wrong and no one spoke up. Love, duty, and trust, instead of resolving it, inadvertently masked the first warning signs of tragedy. The final years of the McCullough household were not as peaceful as they appeared. Virginia was completely dependent on her parents, but instead of seeking change, she became increasingly withdrawn and controlling, especially when it came to finances. She lied frequently, racked up debts without her family's knowledge, and gradually broke down the trust between her sisters. Tensions in the house grew. Virginia was asked to leave, then forgiven. The McCulloughs tried to help, but could not change the situation. On the outside, she maintained a normal appearance. On the inside, her mental instability became more evident. Drug abuse, loss of control, fear of being discovered. In late May, Virginia began preparations. She secretly bought prescription drugs, crushed them, and stored them along with knives and tools. The conflict in the house reached a boiling point when her debts were threatened with disclosure. With her back against the wall, she chose a path with no way out. Virginia controlled all of her parents' finances, from their bank accounts to their contact information. She used multiple SIM cards, impersonating her grandparents to send messages or call relatives, creating the impression that they were fine and living a private life. Although living together, Mr. and Mrs. McCullough did not seem to realize the extent of the danger. They could feel the atmosphere changing, but there was not enough evidence to suspect. Small conflicts appeared more and more often, but still within the limits they were accustomed to tolerating. The trust was still there, but the reality was out of control. When the truth gradually came out, it was too late. Any attempt to mend things no longer had a chance. A tragedy was quietly forming right in their own home. On the night of the 17th of June, 2019, the tragedy officially began. Virginia put her plan into action. She mixed a large amount of prescription sedatives pre-crushed into her father John McCullough's alcoholic beverage. The two had dinner as usual in what seemed like a peaceful atmosphere. Hours later, John died in his sleep, showing no signs of a struggle. Virginia did not call emergency services or tell anyone. The next morning, the 18th of June, when Lois awoke, Virginia faced the risk of discovery. In a moment of panic or calculation, she proceeded to carry out the second step of her plan. As Lois lay in bed listening to the radio, Virginia approached armed with a hammer. The first blow left her stunned, but still alive. She continued her knife attack, stabbing her a total of 8 times 7 of them in the chest, causing severe damage to her heart and lungs. Lois died on the spot, without a chance to call for help, in the familiar room where she had spent her entire life. During the attack, Virginia suffered a cut on her hand, a small but deep cut. After killing her mother, she went to the local doctor, explaining that the cut was caused while preparing vegetables. No one suspected anything, and she returned home as if nothing had happened. 2 lives ended in less than 12 hours. No screams, no calls for help. Just silence, and a killer calmly went about her daily life, living for 3 more days in a house with the bodies of her own parents. It wasn't until more than 4 years after the murder that the truth began to emerge. On the 15th of September, 2023, a family doctor in Essex who was in charge of John and Lois McCullough's medical records noticed something unusual. Both elderly patients had stopped coming to see each other and had not received their regular prescriptions for an extended period of time. The sudden disappearance, with no apparent medical reason, worried the doctor. Unable to contact the couple, he immediately filed a report with the Essex Safeguarding Young People and Vulnerable Adults Board. The agency then referred the case to the local police, who opened a missing persons investigation. From what initially seemed like a minor sign, the welfare system had been riddled with holes for years. No one, not even distant relatives or neighbors, had raised serious questions. Virginia had continued to live in the house, acting as if her parents were simply old and in need of quiet. It was only when the medical traces were interrupted that the disappearance could no longer be hidden. And that's when the truth began to emerge. When Essex police searched the house on Pump Hill Chase, what they discovered quickly shifted the investigation from a missing person to a serious homicide.
It's fine.
In the garage, they found the body of John McCullough hidden in a homemade grave surrounded by foam blocks and building materials, carefully stacked to block odors and conceal them long-term. Not far away, in a large upstairs closet, police discovered the body of Lois McCullough. The body was wrapped in a sleeping bag, sealed with multiple layers of tape, and pushed deep into the corner of the closet. The autopsy revealed Mr. John died of sedative poisoning, the dose far exceeding the therapeutic level. Mrs. Lois died of multiple trauma and multiple stab wounds, with 7 stab wounds to the chest, causing damage to the heart and lungs. Both bodies were partially decomposed, indicating that they had died many years ago. There were no signs of struggle or outside interference. The chilling thing was, Virginia had been living in that house for more than 4 years, with the bodies of her own parents. After discovering 2 bodies in the house, suspicion quickly turned to Virginia McCullough, the only daughter who had lived with her parents since 2019. Police discovered that she had been cleverly impersonating her parents for more than 4 years. Virginia used her phone, email, and handwritten letters to send messages, call doctors, cancel appointments, send holiday cards, all to create the illusion that Mr. and Mrs. McCullough were still alive and just wanted to hide. Virginia continued to receive pensions and social benefits from her parents' accounts. She spent the money on personal expenses and ran up personal debts of nearly £150,000, including credit card debt and uncontrolled spending, based on bank transactions, medical records, phone records, and correspondence. Police confirmed that Virginia had maintained a calculated false life, not only to conceal her crimes but also to make financial gain. The case showed that this was not simply an act of murder, but a cover-up that lasted more than 1,500 days, carried out with incredible calm and coldness. On the 15th of September 2023, after receiving a report from the family doctor and launching a missing persons investigation, Essex police formally forced entry into the McCullough family home in Great Baddow. The officers were armed with a search warrant and forensic equipment. Once inside, they were opened by Virginia McCullough. There was no resistance or attempt to evade. She remained unusually calm, stepped back, and let the officers enter the house. When asked about her parents, Virginia immediately confessed that they were both dead and that their bodies were still in the house.
It's fine. No one in here at the moment. Hold on. The police. Got it. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Show your hands. Okay, so Virginia, I'm just going to ask you this. This is what I've written down based on the information you just told us, because what we regard as a significant comment, because you've made it under caution after your arrest.
By the way, you're part of, they're my granddad's.
Okay, right. So I've written this, please. I, Virginia McCullough, have informed Police Constables 77329 Brown and 79387 Bowers after entering my house on Friday the 15th September 2023 that I murdered my father, John McCullough, who was stated was under a bed in the rear ground floor of the house, and my mother upstairs in a cupboard next to the sink.
Wardrobe. It's a double wardrobe.
Right, okay, I've written
double
cupboard.
Wardrobe. It's like 4 wardrobe doors, but it's the one nearest the sink. Double wardrobe.
Without hours of initial questioning or interrogation, she confessed to killing her father and mother during the initial search. The officers' body cameras recorded the entire confession in a steady, unwavering voice. It seemed that, after more than 4 years of stress and lies, Virginia knew the end had come. She was arrested on the spot and taken to Chelmsford Police Station for questioning and remand.
Yep.
Oh. The time is 12:12. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder against Jonathan McCullough and Elias McCullough. Okay? You don't have to say anything, but it may harm defence. You do not mention when in question, so much report anything to do with the evidence. Okay? Alright, your arrest is necessary for a prompt and effective.
Is there anything in the pot that we should know about?
Yes, there is. Can I take you to it?
No, you can tell me.
The murder weapon is upstairs in the toilet room and kitchen.
From that moment on, a case that had seemed completely buried began to unfold with all its shock, calculation, and tragedy. At Chelmsford Police Station, Virginia McCullough was cooperative and showed no signs of resistance. She quickly pointed out where the murder weapon was hidden, a dagger hidden under the stairs, still bearing traces of dried blood.
The murder weapon is upstairs in the toilet room and kitchen. It's in the middle of the brown carpet. Against the wall, opposite the shelves, so there are 2 long white shelves, so opposite where that wall is, that's where the knife is. So next bit is very hard to talk about. That's probably the most grisly detail. It's in the middle underneath the stairs. It will still have blood on it. It's rusted, but it will still have blood traces on it.
This evidence was later confirmed to contain the victim's DNA, solidifying her case. During questioning, Virginia admitted to her role in both deaths and provided details of each step in the crime. She did not try to avoid responsibility and appeared to accept the legal consequences. According to the interview transcript and body cam recording, she uttered statements that expressed resignation, such as saying that she deserved to be punished and that the police had got the right guy. No plea was offered at that point. Instead, there was a chilling, unbroken line of description of what had happened, from poisoning his father, to killing his mother, to hiding the body, to creating a false life for more than 4 years. The case was formally transferred to a criminal case, with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Following Virginia McCullough's arrest, police and prosecutors began compiling evidence to build a case against her. The investigation focused on physical, financial, and behavioral evidence over the 4 years since the crime. They found that Virginia had repeatedly purchased large quantities of prescription tranquilizers, both in pharmacies and online, without a valid medical reason. Her financial history showed she had accumulated debts of almost £150,000, mainly through credit cards and consumer loans. Evidence, such as a bloody knife hidden under the stairs, along with a series of organized acts of impersonation, including the use of multiple SIM cards, emails, and bank accounts, were presented in court. She also used printing services and handwritten letters to maintain the illusion that her parents were still alive, fooling both relatives and the authorities. All of this shows that this was not a spontaneous act in a moment of loss of control, but a carefully prepared plan, concealed by calmness and sophisticated manipulation. The indictment is therefore considered complete, tight, and ready for a public trial. On the 4th of July 2024, at Chelmsford Crown Court, Virginia McCullough pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder. The trial was brief but tense. Virginia did not argue, did not object to any of the prosecution's evidence, nor did she enter a plea. The court confirmed that she had poisoned her father and murdered her mother by violence, then hidden the bodies for many years in order to continue receiving her pension and social benefits. The act was assessed as calculated, prolonged, showing a rare level of severity and coldness. In court, Virginia was suspiciously calm. She showed no remorse, even smiling or making sarcastic remarks at times. Some in attendance described her as acting remorseful, but in reality, emotionless. The defense cited mitigating factors, such as a difficult childhood, the stress of caring for sick parents, and untreated mental health issues. Expert reports mentioned the possibility of a personality disorder, which influenced the defendant's behavior. However, the judge and prosecutor emphasized this was not a spontaneous act of losing control, but a carefully calculated crime, carried out in cold blood. After committing the crime, Virginia continued to live normally in the house, containing her parents' bodies for more than 4 years. Given the particularly serious nature, the court imposed the highest level of criminal responsibility. The trial ended with shock not only to relatives, but also to public opinion, when the perpetrator was the most trusted person in the family. On the 11th of October 2024, Chelmsford Crown Court sentenced Virginia McCullough to life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 36 years before she could be considered for parole. This is one of the longest sentences in the British legal system for murder, reflecting the cold-blooded and calculating nature of her actions. The judge affirmed that Virginia murdered her own parents, people who trusted and depended on her completely. Not only did she kill, she also hid the bodies, creating a false front for more than 1,500 days, in order to gain financial gain and maintain absolute control over the family. Immediately after the verdict, public opinion expressed strong agreement. Many people believed that this was a warning sentence for crimes of treason within the family, where the perpetrator did not come from outside, but from the closest relatives. On social networks, Virginia's behavior was likened to a clear manifestation of sociopathy, level psychopathy, insensitive, manipulative, and absolutely unrepentant. Both experts and the public assessed the sentence as fair, not lenient, and accurately reflected the level of danger of the case. This was not simply murder, but the ultimate betrayal of trust, taking place silently under a seemingly peaceful roof, something that shocked society more than any bloody scene. But this case is not just about numbers and sentences. It leaves a question that many people are struggling with. It shows that when psychological instability is not recognized, when small warnings are ignored, and when love is exploited as a tool of control, all moral boundaries can be erased. No one thought that a daughter loved, trusted, and entrusted with everything could kill both her biological parents, then live with their bodies for 4 years, maintaining a cold and calculating lie. This story is a warning that love does not always mean absolute safety. When psychological trauma is ignored and trust is abused, the home itself can become a hiding place for the most terrible crimes. What do you think about this case? What could make a child silently murder his parents and then live next to their bodies for more than 4 years? And a sentence of 36 years, is it enough for such a shocking crime? Share your thoughts in the comments section.